Imagine buying a house, then discovering an entire city beneath it. It sounds like the beginning of a movie. But in 1963, that's exactly what happened in central Turkey. While renovating his basement, a homeowner knocked through a wall and found a narrow passage leading into darkness. Curious, he stepped inside. The tunnel kept going. Then came another room, another passage, another staircase. Within days, archaeologists realized that this wasn't a forgotten cellar or an abandoned tunnel. It was one of the largest underground cities ever discovered. But here's the strange part. Derinkuyu wasn't the only one. Across our planet, ancient civilizations carved enormous worlds beneath the earth. Some became cities, others became temples. Some stretch for kilometers through solid rock. Others were carved with astonishing precision into some of the hardest stone on Earth. Different continents, different cultures, different religions. Yet somehow, they all shared the same extraordinary idea: build beneath the surface. Why? What could possibly convince thousands of people to spend decades carving mountains from the inside out? That question has puzzled historians for generations. Back beneath the streets of Derinkuyu, archaeologists uncovered a city unlike anything they expected. Level after level descended into the volcanic rock. Homes, storage rooms, wine presses, churches, schools, stables. Even kitchens where traces of ancient fires still remained. This wasn't simply a place to hide. It was a place where people could live. But surviving underground isn't just about finding shelter. It's about staying alive. Imagine thousands of people sealed beneath the earth. No electricity, no machinery, no modern engineering. How does an entire city breathe? The answer was hidden above them. Dozens of carefully designed ventilation shafts carried fresh air from the surface deep into the city, supplying every level below. Some shafts also reached groundwater, providing fresh water even if enemies controlled the land above. Then there were the entrances. Massive circular stone doors, carved from solid rock and weighing hundreds of kilograms, could be rolled shut from the inside. Once sealed, they transformed narrow corridors into powerful defensive barriers, making it incredibly difficult for intruders to force their way through. The deeper researchers explored, the more remarkable Derinkuyu became. Today, archaeologists believe it reaches nearly 85 meters beneath the surface, across as many as 18 levels, although only part of the city is open to visitors. Many estimates suggest thousands of people could have taken refuge here during times of war. The accepted archaeological view is that the earliest sections were likely created during the first millennium BCE, before being expanded over centuries by later civilizations, particularly during the Byzantine era. For many historians, the evidence points to a long history of human ingenuity. But not everyone believes that's where the story begins. Some researchers and independent writers have proposed a far older origin. Their theory begins nearly 13,000 years ago, during a dramatic period known as the Younger Dryas. One scientific hypothesis suggests that fragments of a comet or asteroid may have contributed to sudden environmental changes across parts of the world. While that impact hypothesis remains debated, it has inspired an extraordinary question. What if ancient communities needed somewhere to survive? Supporters of this idea argue that an underground city with fresh air, water, storage, and secure entrances would have been an ideal refuge during a time of environmental crisis. It's a fascinating possibility, but it's also important to separate evidence from speculation. So far, archaeologists have found no reliable evidence that Derinkuyu itself dates back to the Younger Dryas. No artifacts, construction layers, or scientific dating place the city 12,000 years into the past. For now, the idea remains a hypothesis rather than accepted history. Yet even without that theory, Derinkuyu forces us to ask an uncomfortable question. If ancient people could create an underground city of this scale, what else were they capable of? Because thousands of kilometers away, another discovery would raise an even bigger mystery. Not because of who built it, but because no one can explain why it was built at all. If Derinkuyu leaves us wondering why ancient people chose to build beneath the earth, then the next place forces us to ask an even bigger question. How? In eastern China, hidden beneath the hills of Zhejiang province, lies one of archaeology's greatest puzzles, the Longyou caves. Unlike Derinkuyu, these weren't discovered by archaeologists. They were discovered by villagers. For generations, locals believed several deep ponds scattered across the landscape were bottomless. Legends claimed they had no end. Some said they were connected to dragons. Others believed they were simply impossible to drain. In 1992, one local resident decided to find out. Using pumps, villagers began removing the water from one of the ponds. Hour after hour, day after day, the water level continued to fall. Then, the impossible appeared. It wasn't a natural pond. It was an enormous man-made chamber. And it wasn't alone. As more ponds were drained, archaeologists uncovered not one cave, but 24, each carved directly into solid siltstone, each astonishingly large. Some chambers rise nearly 30 meters high. Together, they cover more than 30,000 square meters, roughly the size of several football fields carved beneath the earth. But their size isn't what makes them mysterious. It's their precision. Look closely at the walls, and you'll notice something unusual. Every surface is covered with parallel chisel marks, not randomly scattered, not rough, but remarkably uniform, running across walls, ceilings, and pillars, as though the entire cave had been carved according to a carefully planned design. Even the massive stone columns weren't left behind by accident. They were deliberately preserved to support the immense weight of the ceiling above. Whoever built these caves clearly understood engineering, and they understood it exceptionally well. But then the questions begin. Archaeologists estimate that creating all 24 caves would have required removing close to 1 million cubic meters of rock. Think about that for a moment. Nearly 1 million cubic meters, without excavators, without explosives, without modern machinery. Where did all of that rock go? No giant spoil heaps have ever been identified nearby. No ancient records describe such an enormous construction project. No inscriptions tell us who ordered it. No tools were left behind. No burial sites explain its purpose. Nothing. For a project this enormous, history is strangely silent. Based on pottery and other archaeological evidence found at the site, many researchers believe the caves were created more than 2,000 years ago, likely during or around the Qin and Han periods. But even if that dating is correct, it doesn't answer the biggest question. Why build them? Over the years, many ideas have been proposed. Some believe they were vast underground quarries. But if they were simply quarries, why spend so much effort carving decorative patterns across nearly every wall? Others suggest they were storage chambers, yet there is little evidence they were used that way. Some have proposed military purposes. Others imagine ceremonial spaces. So far, none of these explanations fully account for every feature archaeologists have discovered. That uncertainty has allowed more speculative theories to emerge. Some suggest they were built by a forgotten civilization. Others point to lost engineering techniques now buried by time. At present, however, there is no archaeological evidence supporting the existence of an unknown advanced civilization behind the Longyou caves. Extraordinary claims remain exactly that. Claims. But dismissing unsupported theories doesn't make the caves any less extraordinary. Because even using the best explanations available, someone still planned this. Someone surveyed these chambers. Someone organized an enormous workforce. Someone solved engineering problems that allowed vast underground spaces to survive for more than 2,000 years. And somehow, they left almost no explanation behind. Perhaps that's the greatest mystery of Longyou. Not that we have no theories, but that none of them answer every question. And Longyou is far from the only place where ancient builders achieved what still seems almost impossible. Thousands of kilometers away, inside some of the hardest stone on Earth, another civilization left behind caves so perfectly finished that even today, visitors struggle to believe they were carved by hand.